Hey everyone, looks like we may be live after all. All right, looks like we are live. Apologies for the delay. I think streaming is definitely a lot harder than actually doing AI. Give me a sec. All right, thanks. I think we are on. So, thank you everyone. We are talking about case deflection with Salesforce Service Cloud and AI. My name is Saurabh Gupta. I'm the co founder of GPTfy and Cloud Compliance, and we're going to talk about case deflection and how AI and Salesforce can help you. We are a Salesforce App Exchange ISP partner focused on AI, data security, and privacy. Those are the areas, some of the examples of people who have entrusted us with their offerings, with their product, with their business. All right. So sorry about the rough start. I know we, took a little bit of time getting started there. We were having some technical challenges, but here's the agenda. We're going to talk about support automation and the challenges your customers have today with support automation. A lot of us have used Service Cloud. It's a great product. We know there's a ton of capabilities that it brings to the table, but what can you actually do with it? What can Gen AI really help you do? We'll dive into some demos, particularly on Einstein chatbot and how you can use it with communities, especially with AI. What can you do with AI in terms of case resolution? What can you do with email to case and intelligent routing? Some resources and next steps, and then we'll jump into Q&A. So that's really it. Please definitely keep typing in your comments. I have two screens, so I will occasionally keep glancing to my left to make sure that I am looking at all the information and all the questions that are coming up. So keep typing your questions. I'll get to them. I really like that. That I think is the best part of what we do. All right. So with that, let's dive in. So customer success support and renewal is big money, right? The revenue share of support and related services has dramatically increased across businesses. And there are three drivers here. One of the biggest is the sort of business model change that has been happening for the last decade of moving from transactional business models to subscription based business model. Every company in the world is trying to do that, right? They want to get away from a one sale to a monthly subscription and annual subscription and kind of focus more on that. And that fundamentally requires an obsession with customer success, with support, all of those things. The other part is we have changed. Our expectation today from B2B organizations is really kind of raised because of our experiences with B2C. We think of the Starbucks, the Apples, the Tesla, like everything and anything you can think of, all of those kind of experiences, the Marriott's, right? You're looking at all of these experiences and you're going, some of them are really great experiences. Why am I not getting that from my health insurance company? Why am I not getting that from financial services? Why am I not getting that from my business software company? Right, and so on and so forth. So whether you are utility, manufacturing, or something else, regardless of whether you're B2B, B2C, D2C, whatever, it doesn't matter anymore. There is a significantly high expectation of us as customers. Give me answers, move on. And the third part of this is customer churn. We have seen in the last 2 3 years, particularly in SaaS businesses and elsewhere in technology, there has been a significant amount of shift in consumer spending. Our customers really care about how good our support is. The idea that I can come in and pitch you a really incredible product and with very snazzy marketing and very persuasive sales is just not enough. In addition to those two, I really need to have an extremely compelling support success experience so that you would eventually renew. Bottom line is support is a competitive advantage. Great. So if it is such a competitive advantage, what are we doing? We've put together call centers. We have the ability to do email to case, web to case, forms on the websites. We have chats, we have chatbots. we have knowledge bases, we have all of this stuff, distributed through portals, distributed through WhatsApp, WeChat, SMS, distributed through our own in-app messaging softwares. So we have all of this. But if you're on the receiving side, when you are the customer, when you have to call your bank, your financial services, your phone provider, your anything else, your mortgage, your lending company, you are digging for answers, right? We all struggle with finding the right option and to navigate. I was just struggling with this whole streaming thing that we're trying to do. I'm going, how is it working? Why are we not able to do this, right? So if you think about it, there is a significant portion of that kind of stuff that's happening. So fundamentally, the user experience feels kind of broken. And then the idea was chatbot should solve this problem, AI would come in and solve this problem. But really, as consumers, we are not using it. Here's a Gartner survey that's less than a year old. And you can see that there is a dramatic reduction in how much chatbot usage is actually happening by customers. So while as executives, as the owners of support and renewal and all of that, it may sound very sort of interesting that, oh, we can deploy a chatbot and we can actually reduce the number of cases that are getting created, the support cost and all of that. Customers are not looking at it like this. For them, chatbots are a hurdle. They are not really a helpful agent. So along comes AI, right? And it's getting sprinkled on everything these days. So can AI really help us? And I'll show you a few demos of how can it help you at all, if it does. And how does it let you do more with less and without distractions? Can it help you automate repetitive tasks? Can it help you summarize information and generate emails? Can it help you pull insights from text and files? And all of these are very, very common use cases for AI that are happening. So, how will this work if you were to deploy it in your service cloud? Will it offer you more sort of compelling experiences, or is it going to be not that impressive? Let's take a look at what we can do in this space. So I'm going to start by talking about the support lifecycle. If you think about support, right, or the lifecycle really of a case, our emphasis is on improving customer experience, mean time to resolution, improving the customer satisfaction, and agent productivity. And it starts with actually having less cases. Can you deflect cases even before they are getting created? So, what can we do with chatbots and knowledge bases, PDF and HTML integration? Can we do email to case? Can we do integration with our case forms within our portals? When someone is typing something, we can surface up things. What can we do there, and how can AI help? What can we do once a case is created? Can we summarize it? Can we do analysis? Can we enrich cases? Can we apply intelligent routing? Can we identify RMAs proactively on this? And once you have resolved a case or in the process of resolving, what can you do? Can you integrate it with knowledge bases? Can you actually automatically generate resolution? And I'm going to show you some of these demos in literally another few minutes. And can you run sentiment analysis, intent analysis? Can you do root cause? All the things that generative AI promises. How would this be woven into your Salesforce Service Cloud instance? And how would it really offer some sort of a compelling value? And finally, in the post resolution, how do you analyze sentiment journey? How do you finalize root causes? How do you re engineer your processes and all of that? So interestingly, we do all of these things. We don't do a little bit of this where you see the star, but all of this other stuff is what we are doing today. And I'm going to show you some of this so that you can see the possibilities with generative AI that you can offer to your customers today, that you can weave into your support, customer success operations, and actually do real world case deflection, actually reduce cost and take things forward and make it significantly better than where it's at. So let's take a look at that and identify how we can move it forward. But before we do, comes this question. If you're in the delivery business, you have to look at AI and think about how complicated AI is and how expensive it is. And how do you bring it to your Salesforce? You've got to maybe buy new licenses, buy more data infrastructure, spend dollars in consulting, and a lot of good stuff is on the roadmap. So, what is the better way to do this, right? And that is kind of where we arrived at the idea of a Panama Canal. Again, when I show you demo, I'll show you a little bit of this. how you can integrate your AI in your CRM. And we are one of those product companies which is actually kind of thinking of a direct connection between these two using GPTfy. How can you make it distraction free, very easy to use? Literally have a 1 hour setup. You can go live in weeks and do it with a very robust security and bring your own model. So let's take a look and do this. I'm going to jump into the demo here and see what we can do with Einstein chatbot in communities. So my first demo is actually going to be with uh, an anonymous user. So I'm just a user on a website, right? And I come across, let's say it's a university website, and I'm going to just close this chat, refresh this so that we can see how it works. Um, so I'm on this screen here, and what you're going to see is I'm looking at a response from Michelle where she's saying chatbots are annoying and don't answer the question. They don't refine the answer enough. So, yes, Michelle, I'm actually going to show you exactly that and see if they are doing any better here. So, we have a chatbot, right? And it's an Einstein chatbot. The key difference here, though, is that this chatbot is integrated with AI. So what you do when you look at a typical Einstein chatbot, it has a bunch of menu options, right? And you pick one, maybe you ask questions, and most of the times it may not understand your question well, much to Michelle's earlier point, because a lot of these kind of chatbots are more rule based. They're trying to look for an intent and say, oh, did you mean this? But with LLM or AI models, there is a greater degree of conversational intelligence. So when I ask this question, it is actually now taking this question, Einstein chatbot, using GPTfy, going to an LLM or an AI model. In this case, it's going to Google AI, and which in turn is connected to my knowledge base. That knowledge base can be Salesforce knowledge. It could also be a bunch of PDFs. It could be some third party knowledge repository or a combination of all of them, right? So it's now looking at this and it comes back and it gives me this answer, right? So I can ask other kind of questions to it and get more conversational answers. If I say, do you have on campus counseling, right? So the idea is that it is able to have that conversation with me and actually tell me these kind of things. The other thing that can happen here is it can also provide me with links of, here, oh sure, here is a link to this, here's a link to that. We have configured it not to provide it, but it's not very hard. The part that is very interesting about it is that what may seem really simple today with what I'm showing is usually incredibly hard. For those folks here who have, uh, my image is over the chat bar. Oh, I am, I'm so sorry. Let me see if I can move it. I don't think I can move my chat bot. So thank you so much for that feedback. I'm going to move my chat bot here. I'm going to go shut this thing here. Sorry about that. I'm going to move all of this out of the way. Apologies. So hopefully this works better now. Thank you, Garrett, for letting me know. So now I have this chatbot and I'm asking questions from it and it's answering them. And what you're seeing is it is sort of more conversational. I can say, I can keep on asking questions about what are the programs you offer, right? And it's trying to have this conversational intelligence in it. And certain cases it may not have an answer. When it doesn't hallucinate. If I ask, how do I buy bitcoins, right? One of the risks with AI is people are like, it's going to give answers that are really bad. So in this case, we have kind of configured it so it will not give you answers that don't make sense. If I go back and ask some version of this question, are there scholarships available? Yes, they are. Can I get financial aid? Right. So it will probably come back and give me an answer if it had. So again, this is not configured optimally, but the idea is it can go against a very wide repository of knowledge and actually answer questions as we are asking them. So that is one example of how you can use chatbot. This is okay. This is fine. It does something. I actually look at this and I'm going, okay, great, it did something not significantly interesting at this point. Let me show you another portion of it which might actually be more interesting. So let me go pull my other chatbot here. Now what's happening in this case is I'm going to close this guy and go back into my Salesforce and show you a little bit of uh, sorry, I'm going to go to my Salesforce here. And what I'm going to show you here is I'm inside Salesforce and I'm on a student contact, right? So what you see with the student here is that you have some custom objects. I have some fees transactions. I have some grades. So I have a bunch of information here. And what I want to do is I want chatbot to answer these questions in the context of what I'm showing. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to go log into experience as a user. So this is like an authenticated access, right? And when it comes back, what you're going to see is really a version where it knows, where Salesforce communities knows that I'm logged in, right? So it knows I'm logged in as Mark. So I'm going to move this a little bit in case I was over the, my camera was over the chatbot. I'll just move it here. Apologies. I did not realize that. So, and I'm going to close this guy. It was my last chat. And so the idea is now I can ask questions from it of both type, right? I should be able to ask questions which you can get answers from the knowledge base. But more importantly, I should be able to ask questions which are specific to my account. So my grades, my fees, things like that. So, what I'm doing now is it knows that I'm logged in here. So I'm going to go here and say, what are my grades? And basically, what's happening now is this is going to AI, and AI goes, okay, what is the question? Oh, this question. So it knows that the answer is not in knowledge base, it's in Salesforce. So it is intelligently bringing information from the appropriate data store, right? Um, so you're able to do this. There's a question on it from Scott around, does GPTfy integrate with the new Salesforce chat solution called in-app and web messaging? So Scott, yes. Uh, so for everybody else, for perspective, Einstein chatbot now has two variants. There is the standard Einstein chatbot, which is what Salesforce used to have, and it is, I think, now either it's becoming legacy. So I don't believe it's supported anymore. So if you have existing, great. If you don't, Salesforce recommends you use what they call an enhanced version. So the enhanced Einstein chatbot is interesting. It does what Scott mentioned here. It supports in-app and web messaging. What that means is this chatbot can be interfaced with WhatsApp, with WeChat, with native app. If you have a native mobile app in your business and you want to use Einstein chatbot, you can actually now use it. So it brings a lot of that kind of capability, and we are working with it. The user experience is slightly different, but not dramatically, from what you're seeing here. um, from our perspective, what essentially the idea is, the chatbot is integrated with AI, and then because of that, it gains new superpowers in terms of conversational quality, in terms of intent detection of what does this person want to do, and so on. So I'll continue down this a little bit more. So now it's got my grades, right? And I can say, can you give me, I can say, how much fees have I paid, right? And so now it has again context to this, so it can go back and it told me this is the total I have paid. Can you give me details on this? So I wanted to give me more information on that, right? It just told me it's the total. Now it's giving me details. So what you're seeing now is this is information that you may have on your customer portal. You may showcase it. You may have people go click around and get it. But now you can actually eliminate that. You can give them a more conversational interface. This one is not configured, but because LLMs can be multilingual, we can actually make this multilingual. So if you have a global deployment and you needed to speak German, Italian, French, Spanish, whatever, it would do that. And you can have the ability to actually pull information from the knowledge base, from here, all of that information, and you can keep on going. As a customer, I can go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, ask questions which are relevant to my account, ask questions which are getting fed from a knowledge article. So those are some of the things that you're able to do. Um, Thank you so much for all the comments. I'm kind of taking a look at them again. So please keep them coming if you have other things that you want to add. And I'm going to take a sec here and just drink a bit of water. All right. Thank you for that. Let me actually go back to the slide and talk a little bit more about the Einstein chatbot story and what you can do. This is super cool. We are doing this with a bunch of customers now. Very, very compelling. And the thing I like about this is actually a real way to bring case deflection. So what you see on the left is a regular chatbot, regular Einstein chatbot. This is what is typically deployed today. What you see on the right is the same chatbot, but with the GPTfy and AI integrated into it. So what you're seeing here is while I can ask questions, it is still kind of looking at a bunch of menu options in terms of admission, application, whatever, right? And so it is more menu option driven. So it is like press one for this, press two for this. It's kind of the chatbot version of it, and it doesn't have account information, right? It is limited in that the intent, if I said agent, it's gonna be rule based. In our case, the intent is determined by AI. So it can be, I can say agent, representative, human, and it can be a lot of those things. So you don't have to configure intent and utterances to the degree you have to configure in Einstein. And if anybody here has used that, it is non-trivial to really get intents working if you have a very wide list of things that you want your chatbot to do. Similarly, if I asked 50 questions on out of a chatbot, there is no keyword identification. So you don't know what's the summary of this conversation. What was this person asking about? What can you feed this data into Marketing Cloud, and can you benefit from it? Will Marketing Cloud actually be able to understand and say, oh, look, Saurabh came, he logged in, he asked a bunch of questions around financial aid. Can we actually send them information around that? Can we or if someone is considering to do business with you and they have identified or they're logged in as a lead or as a customer and looking at other things, you can identify upsell opportunities and target them. I'm going to show you a little bit more on the chatbot side, but fundamentally that is a difference between these two, and how you're adding more firepower to your existing investments in chatbot, or if you are considering getting one. In terms of the capabilities, this is what we were looking at, right? You have uh, the person who's visiting, you have Einstein chatbot, and you have GPT-5 plus AI. And GPT-5 is running inside your Salesforce, connecting to an AI model of your choice via a bring your own model. And basically, you're able to do this. You're able to respond with account specific information, knowledge articles. You can redirect to agent if the person asks. If the chatbot doesn't know, you can open a case. You can do a lot of these kind of things without literally writing any code at all, right? So much of this is then integrated because we are doing all the intent detection on the AI side and sending it back and invoking appropriate Einstein actions. So let me show you a little bit more of that back in to where we were. So I'm here. I can just go and say agent, and it'll just try to find me an agent, which it may not find. I can also say talk with a human, and it's kind of the same thing, right? It's trying to transfer to an agent. Since I don't have an agent, it's like, hey, I don't have an agent, but now it's willing to log a case for me. So I can say, I can, oh, I forgot, move it here. So I can say, yes, please ask someone to call me back. Okay, so you can have a lot of things like that, and it can do stuff like this for me. So I'm done. I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna close this chat, right? I'm gonna just done with this. What happens after, right? I've closed this chat. This is all great, and I'm gonna show you some very similar things on the case side, right? So now I'm gonna go back on my Salesforce, and what you will see is a couple of things, right? So I'm gonna go to chat transcripts, and we will look at this transcript. So you can see this is the conversation that just happened. I'm going to go here, open this chat transcript. And what you see is, so this is like what our conversation was, right? But what GPT-5 has done is it's not automatically generated a summary, right? So and you can configure it. This is AI. It's basically prompts. So you can configure it and you can say, hey, give me a 50 word summary, whatever you want. You can do keyword identification and extraction. So you can say, if one of these 150 keywords appears, identify them and update it on the record. And this is all happening without any code. This is completely declarative. I'll show you in a bit how that happens. And it's also identifying a sentiment. This is key, right? If you have a significant number of chats that are happening, how do you make sure that if any of those chats are not positive, then you are able to, kind of pounce on it? How do you make sure, particularly with logged in user, how do you make sure that we are able to address any sort of dissatisfaction that our customers or partners or whoever is accessing through your communities page? How do you make sure you're able to do this? So that's the kind of capability this brings you here. So there's a question that Padma Kumar asked: how different is GPTfy compared to what Einstein Copilot allows us to build? So I did not notice, Padma Kumar, how long ago you asked this question, but basically this is the difference that I was just mentioning earlier. Uh, Very quickly, this is more conversational. It can be multilingual. You can bring in account specific, logged in user specific information and context and answer questions. Your intent detection can be AI based. If you've worked with Einstein and if you had 30, 40, 50 intents, it can get really, really hard to make sure that you are able to isolate and identify the right intent. It's just because of a limitation of any rule based engine. Um, with LLMs, you have an extremely more capable way of doing intent detection, similarly for keyword identification, things like that. And we are continuing to further into this territory. So I hope it answers the question. Please do keep adding more comments as appropriate. All right. So this is what we did with Einstein chatbot, and that is great. So how did this work architecturally, right? I'm going to spend a little bit of time, then we will jump into the case demo and talk about that. So it is really simple, actually. What we have done is, so this is just Salesforce. This is GPT-5, which is an app exchange package. It is running inside your Salesforce org. So this little blue dotted, purple dotted line is the, is the perimeter of your Salesforce org. So we don't have a data center. Your data is 100% in your Salesforce all the time, except when we send it out to AI. And because we are a bring your own model, you can connect GPT-5 to one or more model on an infrastructure vendor of your choice. So it is your AI. You're running it on Microsoft Azure or Amazon Web Services or Google Cloud or on premise. Whatever you want to do is fine, as long as it offers a REST endpoint and we are able to connect to it. And because we are able to do that, you can now enable AI for your business, and you get a full blown prompt engineering platform. I'll show you that in a little bit. And you can also improve usability and adoption by some of the automations that I was showing, and I'll show you some more on that. The other part of this is you can now enforce security and privacy policies. And essentially, the idea here is that you are able to ensure that if you need to take care of data residency, maybe you have users in China and it needs to go against an AI in China, you can do that. We have a built-in security layer, so you can leverage that, and that way you can ensure that it's masked before it goes to your AI and things like that. This model is particularly very favored by a lot of regulated sector because their infosec wants 100% control on this, and they want their AI to be more horizontal and accessible by non-Salesforce systems. So anyway, that's kind of what we support. And this therefore also enables AI across the enterprise. I'm going to dive a little bit more into this. So I'm looking at one or two more questions. Let me address them. So Mark said he wasn't asking about Copilot. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question. I didn't read your question correctly then, Padma Kumar. So we are different from Copilot, from Einstein Copilot in a couple of different ways. One, we are a bring your own model. So you can bring your own model. Two, price, we are very, very low price. I'll show you that in a minute. Three, we are different because we give you the capability to essentially leverage this across the board with any number of standard or custom objects. I'll show you some of that in a minute. And we are not building a co-pilot. You can call us a no pilot if you like. Once I show you the user interface a little bit more, it'll make sense. But our usability and adoption thesis, if you will, is that your users don't probably want to ask that many questions of AI as much as they want AI to do the job. So I'll show you in a minute how we are approaching it versus a co-pilot type user experience, whether it's Microsoft, Salesforce, or anybody else's. Uh, so the other question that Lucia, I hope I'm saying your name correctly, is saying, can you please specify how it can be multilingual? Does it mean finally that, for example, if the customer opens a website on Italian but asks a question on English, GPT will answer in English. So you're correct, Lucia. You do have that option. I wish I would have had it configured here, but based on the language you ask question in, AI can detect and it can actually then respond back to it, in the same language. It's still using the same content. It's basically just doing a translation both ways, because that capability is built into most modern AI models and LLMs. We are able to do that. So let me actually jump and show you a little bit on the case side what we do, and then I'll get into a little bit of under the hood so that it becomes easier to understand how all of this is working, because I know I left that part out a little bit. So let me go back to my case. So I'm on a case, same question, right? And this case may have come in from email to case, web to case. I like email to case particularly because those are terrible. You have no control on what's coming in, right? I can literally send, two paragraphs from Shakespeare to support@abc.com, and now you have a case and you don't know what to do with it. Correct. So that is the challenge for most organizations. So I'm going to show you a couple of things here. So I have this subject, and literally that's all I have on this case, right? This is a case, there is a subject, there is nothing else here. So I'm going to use my first prompt here, which is called intelligent routing. It's going to literally take just this information, go against an AI. It will do a summarization, although there's not that much to summarize. It'll try to identify the product here. It'll try to identify what type of question this is. And to Lucia's question, it will try to identify what language it is in, what's the sentiment, things like that. So I'm going to go click this. So now GPTfy takes this information, extracts, if there's any PII, masks it, sends it over, gets a response back, puts it here. And what you can see here is it's got a summary, it's identified what product it is. Again, we are going with the university analogy here. So it's university, what kind of question? It was about scholarship. So it's financial aid, what's the language, all of that. That's great. But can it really identify my products and type effectively? So if I go back here on this question, I'm going to edit this case and we'll run this again. Available for students pursuing business degree, right? I'm going to save this and see what if it changes my response, right? So I've just updated it. I'm going to run this thing again and see what happens now. So it came back, it kind of did the same thing, but notice instead of university, now it's picked up business school. So because it is AI and I am constraining it to pick one of these 15 values that I'm sending, it is able to do this. If we get a chance, I'll probably translate it into a different language, Italian here, since Lucia asked for it, and we will put it again and see if it works. But for now, just bear with me as I go through this. So this is what happened here. I want to show you a little bit of what happened under the hood. So I'm going to click on this thing here, and now I will show you what we call a security audit record, right? So basically when GPTfy ran, and I should have mentioned, so in case of this, GPTfy is this little box that your end user sees. And Padm Kumar, to your earlier question, that is how we are different. So we are not a co-pilot in the classic sense of a co-pilot where somebody's typing, give me a routing for this, update the summary for this case, update the sentiment. We've all pre-configured all of that, right? So I'll show you what it looks under the hood. I clicked on this thing and here is the record. So it's going against Google Vertex, right? And this is my prompt. So if you see here, I have a prompt and I'm saying, hey, do these things, do a summary, identify the product, right? And constrained values, right? I'm saying your product, any question I get has to fall in one of these 6 categories. Is it university, law school, nursing, business, engineering, others? So whatever products your business has, you can effectively apply this. Notice this is all very, very plain English under the hood, and I'll show you how this came together, right? Similarly, I have what kind of request is it? Is it billing, access, technical, admission, application, whatever, right? Sentiment, all of that. And then I have language. I'm literally saying, hey, identify language, because LLMs can do that, right? So that is all I have in the prompt. I want to show you a little bit of more of what happened, right? So when we click the button, we send this information. We only had very limited information, and this is all dynamic and declarative, and you can configure it to send whatever data you want to send. And then we got a response back, right, from our AI, and it's got like a bunch of things. But basically it's telling me all of these things, right? It's looking at this and it's going, hey, this is the summary of your content, the sentiment is positive, the product, it was for business school, all of that stuff it's got here. So you have the ability to actually see what was sent, what got back, right? And then we are automatically updating it. Let me show you a little bit more of what that means, and then I want to show you how it's doing resolution of cases that we were looking at. So I'm going to click on this guy here, and now you're looking at the prompt, right? So the prompt is what we were looking at here. But what's interesting, and I think Scott mentioned that earlier, so we do have what we call a data context mapping. This is another fundamental area, Padma Kumar, to your question, where we are different. You are able to go against an object, its related second level of objects, its related third level of objects, and those relationships could be master, detail, pay, or they could be lookup relationships. So very, very powerful capability. So basically, I can go here and I can say, well, I want to add other objects to this case, and I can go here and pick up these objects. I can pick objects that are standard. I can pick objects that are custom. I can pick objects that are external objects. If you use OData and you want to bring data from non-Salesforce systems, you can do that. So I can just literally go here and pick whatever I would have wanted. And you can see this is a list of all the objects in my org, right? I can go and I can go, well, I want this one, I want this one. And I can just literally, click a button here and pick whichever one I'm interested in. I can pick case feed, for example, right? I can put a where clause and say, give me only those records where the status is blah and limit it to this. So I have a lot of flexibility in what I want to do there. The second thing is, even with the records that I have picked, I can specify what information am I sending to AI, right? So I'm sending account ID, case ID, bunch of these fields, right? And I can go ahead and check more boxes if I wanted to send more information. The third thing we are doing is we can mask. So I'm saying, look, you've got this contacts email. AI doesn't care, so mask it. So I'm going to say mask this entire value. So instead of Saurabh at GPTfy, I would have removed one at removed.com, for example, right? So basically, it is masking all of those values that you are specifying, so you can lock down in terms of security. We can do this also with patterns. So if you have social security numbers, if you have account numbers of type, credit card, whatever it is, right? Anything that can be expressed as regular expressions or regex or patterns, you can apply that. And yes, we do this not only for regular fields, but then we would apply this for all of the long text fields and take out those values if they existed anywhere else. So basically, by doing all of this, you can specify what is the content you want to send. And here you can specify what is the data, what is the prompt you're sending. If I go back and hit deactivate on this, what you will see is it's got a lot of components. And against any of them, I have a lot of like, hey, for this, identify product. And you can see very, very declarative. And I can see limited to these values, right? So I can add other values as your business evolves. You can do all of that stuff. Very, very simple. You can add additional instructions. So there's a little bit of understanding how this works. But basically, the idea is it's very, very declarative and no code written to do this. Again, I'm not gonna. We also support version control, so anytime you create new prompts, we'll keep a version of the old one so that you can go back if what you were doing wasn't working, right? So that's on this. That's great. That's under the hood. Let me actually go back and show you what else can we do, right? So this is good. I got some information about this, but I have really not answered the question. I was only doing routing, correct? I've put this data here. Now I can route it. All your routing rules, your queues, if you have Apex, any triggers, whatever you're doing, all of that can now work pretty much as is, except that your ability to add more defined attributes on the case has increased. So if a case came through email to case, you can automatically have a GPTfy run, populate all of this. Then whatever other automation you have can then route it because it has a lot more understanding. If it was in Italian, you can route it to the Italian support queue, and folks who are on that queue can pick up the case and answer it. So very, very cool capability to do routing, particularly for email to case, where you really have very little context of who's sending email and why. You may not have any product information. It's all kind of buried in a lot of unstructured text. Great. So I have this. Now I am going to click another button and run another prompt, and I want to populate the proposed resolution here. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to click generate resolution. I'm going to hit this. And again, what it's going to do is it's going to go to the AI with this question, come back with an answer. Apparently it didn't find an answer. But if it would actually populate it here. Let me try running it again. Maybe, actually I'm going to switch this back to what it was, because maybe that's what's throwing it off. Again, there is an optimization in this thing, just like in full transparency. But the idea is that you're able to do that, and hopefully, oh, it came back super quick. So it is able to come back and do this. This is where we would optimize. When we work with customers, we would optimize so that we have some variants of it. If there were specifics for, say, a business school versus a law school versus nursing versus whatever, or whatever your product lines are, and if you have variations based on region, products, business units, you're able to apply all of that here, and you're able to get a resolution right inside here. Now that I have a resolution for it, and all of this could be fully automated, right? I can go and say, hey, generate me an email basically with all of this information, and it's going to populate it in the subject and body here that I have put. And I put these mostly because it's a demo, but the idea is they will be in appropriate sort of, you know, areas where, you can then have email templates, or if you use Marketing Cloud or whatever you use, that can work. This is taking a while. It's working. Oh, looks like I broke it, is it? Let me try one more time, see if it works. Sorry, we were doing some other experiments with it before this call, but the idea is that it's able to populate. All right, so I have another question. Mir is asking, how are all of these prompts migrated from one environment to another? Is it data load or change set or other tools? Well, every prompt, we have a whole prompt export import capability. So essentially, let me go to GPTfy. So essentially, you are able to migrate them as as JSONs. So see this export. So I can like select a bunch of them, and I can basically just hit export, and it'll actually just export my prompts. So I can export, I can import, I can do a whole lot of those kind of things with it if I wanted to. So sorry, I think I needed to select them here. I can select a bunch of them, and I can hit download, and it'll just like let me download all of those. And similarly, I can do an export. So that's how the import export works. We've kind of done a fair bit of work there. So anyway, I'm going to go back to my case here, and share some additional information on that there. So this is kind of the flow of what it looks like, right? You got an email, you can automate this. So GPT-5 would extract and mask data, right? Send it to a model, basically get you any sort of routing information and update it. Also update with the resolutions, right? And now your routing rules can assign cases, your agents can act on them, and you can click a button and generate emails. So the idea is, if you look at your email to case today, a lot of this routing is hard, it's brittle. If you have any, you may have custom email handlers, you have Apex, you're writing these in an Apex code. Now, what this allows you to do is it makes it more flexible, right? You can literally do it with the prompts that I was showing. You have a new product, go back, add a new product in the prompt, create a new version, and you are off to the races, right? So you have the ability to do a lot of that. And with AI, you have a much broader knowledge base. Like we can train AIs to go against significantly large knowledge bases. In our demo, we had very limited information. It's not as optimized. But for the customers we are working with, they have a lot of articles, hundreds of articles, and we are able to basically feed that to AI. The good news is all of that is not as time consuming as you may think. Like we are now working with a customer that we started working with, like 10 days ago, and they now are doing a demo of this, I think tomorrow, internally to a very large group of their users to actually see how this works. Yes, there is a bit of trial and error, optimization, and things that have to happen. Obviously, it's a brand new technology coming in, but fundamentally the idea here is how can we get extremely quickly to some of these things. So I wanted to really kind of talk about that. I'm going to see if there are other questions. Give me a sec. I'm going to get a bit of water here. All right. Great. So I want to show you one or two more things on this specific to case resolution, which is on our website. And basically, if you are looking for some of these use cases, you can go to Guide, you can go to Service Cloud, and there are some use cases. And someone from my team will share a link for this, but you can look at some of the use cases that we are doing. It's not updated for Einstein chatbot yet, but it's got a whole bunch of those kind of things. If you wanted to know more about how we are doing some of these things, like me here, the question you asked, So all of that is on our knowledge base. We have a lot of videos that are essentially like 2 minutes, 3 minutes for Sales Cloud, for Service Cloud, and you can kind of look at them. We do sentiment analysis, intent analysis, and a lot of things like that. And GPTfy is an app exchange app, so you can definitely talk to us, and we can help you trial and basically get you there very, very quickly. In terms of our pricing, we start from $15 because, again, the idea is you can do it very, very quickly there and rather inexpensively. So these are some ways we differ from other offerings in the marketplace. Finally, one of the challenge with some of these things is how do you really show value to your business, right? When I'm doing all of this. So we track how much time each of these are saving you. So if I go back here to some of these things that we were doing, we are able to track the time depending on how big something is, right? So for writing an email, we think we save 48 seconds. Similarly, we do other very sort of more complex things with a lot more content. So like an account 360, for example, where you're seeing a summary of all the opportunity, all the cases associated, open cases for an account, and you have like all of this data is coming from AI. And because of the sheer amount of information it is crunching, these are things that may cost your end user 10 minutes, 15 minutes just to put something together for knowledge transfer or territory realignment or whatever. I know that's not support, but I wanted to show you that we are able to track some of these time. And what that does is you're then able to show a ROI dashboard to your management in terms of how much time are you really saving with all of these things. Because that is one of the challenge I found as a technologist is all of these technologies and all the vendors talking about are on the trust me paradigm. It's like, hey, trust me on security, trust me on ROI, trust me, it'll be great. But we wanted to measure it being the engineers we are. And so the idea is you are able to look at a lot of those things. Every prompt that I've shown you can be automated. So you can run them through flows, you can run them through Apex. We also support what we call mass processing so that you can schedule it and it can run every 30 minutes or whatever you want. And you can have the granularity to run it only against open cases that have been updated with case comment or other activities in the last 30 minutes. And that way, it'll automatically keep on running against those cases that were updated or created and add whatever information you want it to add. You can also run it real time through flows, through triggers, things like that, or by clicking those buttons that we were looking at. The idea is that all of this is focused on your end users and giving them the opportunity to really drive meaningful progress with support. Uh, there is a whole bunch of things that happen under the hood, but conceptually, if you're looking at AI, you want to think about these four broad areas, right? So, context mapping, prompts, request response, and sort of what automation. And every time you're looking at this, and this is probably a 15-minute conversation in itself, so I'm not going to do it today in the interest of time. But you are able to, but if you're looking at AI, particularly if you're a technologist, because that's kind of my point of view on that. But even as a business, if you're looking at it, these are the four considerations. Whatever vendor you're looking at, solutions, you're thinking of building your own, hopefully, if you're looking at people like us, you want to look at these four areas and see what capabilities exist in the vendors you're looking at, and are they able to do this, are they able to support standard custom objects, external objects, how specific they can get with the records and fields. Can you ground your data? Can you add grounding rules for ethics, bias, hallucination? How are they going to do security? How big is how good is their trust or security layer, and how much of automation are they able to do? So you want to look at least these couple of things to figure this out, right? um, there is a question here from Mahesh on how do you estimate the ROI. So Mahesh, we are looking at how much data was crunched here, and we estimate that there is a average reading speed that a person has and comprehension. So if you were doing it, let's say it takes, I don't know, 12 minutes to do it. And we used AI and it took AI 45 seconds to do it. So it saved you 11 minutes and 15 seconds. It's kind of like very simple math on that. But the idea is, and so you know, uh, it doesn't like go into some sort of imagination. Literally, it is based on those very simple assumptions. and then you can actually put a cost against it, right? We are just giving you a number, and you could say, hey, we saved 15,000 minutes a month. And well, what is that? What does that cost you today in support dollars, right? Is it 20, 30, $40 of offshore support? Is it significantly higher of on-site support? And you can do the math on that. But the idea is that by measuring all of this, you are able to actually show the effectiveness of this, because that is one of my big issues with a lot of technologies that I have had the pleasure to implement at Salesforce prior to that, and even now, is that so much of this is not clear. What actual value is it driving? So now you can do that not only on case deflection, not only on mean time resolution, CSAT, but also specifically on AI and what it's doing for you. So that's on this. Are there other questions I can answer? Please do type in here. I want to share you one or two resources very quickly. So we do have a group on LinkedIn called Enterprise Reaming Group, and this is the URL for it. I'm hoping one of our colleagues is going to add that. So please feel free to go there and join us there. We will post, recording and stuff like that there, and then you can ask questions from us. You can also reach out to us on GPTfy.ai, which I was showing earlier, and then you can always start it and basically book a demo with us if you wanted to do. I think Rahul already shared the resource with Mahesh, but if you are looking for that ROI, we do have an ROI guide here that I think this is actually specific to support. So you can go here and you can figure this out. There is like a link to a spreadsheet. You can actually go type in and figure out, hey, how much, how many agents, how many calls, how much time they spend, and you can just like do something very simple for case summarization. So the idea is you are able to do all of this, and this is not like a pitch without any solid business case or meat behind it. All right. So someone had asked about training LLMs. Okay. Yes. So Rahul had responded, but since in the interest of people who may not be on LinkedIn, because this is getting streamed to other channels, uh, the question is, how do you, do you have to train LLMs? How does this work, right? And the way this works is that we are we are basically sending a lot of information this way, right? Pulling from Salesforce, sending it to LLM. LLM can respond based on three bases. First, what they know, which is all the conversational ability, language, things like that. If it was generic things, if you didn't lock them down, and you can then have a conversation and say, hey, how do I make pasta? And it may give you an answer, right? Based on what they know is one. And we lock it down, so it may not do that. Second, based on what they have access to. So you can give them access to knowledge bases, to your PDF files, to either Salesforce knowledge articles or third-party information, which is kind of semi-public that you anyways share with your customers or with partners. So you can give them access, and then LLMs can respond intelligently, which is what they're doing in the chatbot or in the case that we were looking at. So that's the second part of this. The third part of this is based on account specific information, right? So when we are asking LLM, what are my grades? What's my fees? When is my renewal due? What happened to this case number, or what happened to my order? Whatever it is that they're asking, uh, LLMs can be given access very securely to extremely specific information on the logged in user, and LLM can answer back to them. That information is session specific, and once that chat session ends, that information evaporates. So those are sort of the three ways we are doing this. If you wanted to go from what is generative AI here to predictive, then you would have to do sort of larger training, which is again like, what is the chance that this account will do attrition? Well, that's like, frankly, for most businesses, that is probably an 8 to 12 month effort, because you need to have good data curated. You need a lot of manual intervention, and that is something you could do. We don't play in that space, just very candidly. We are doing things with generative AI. So what we are doing here is a good way to think about it is literally this, right? What automate repetitive tasks, questions that we are repeatedly answering from a support and case perspective, summarizing information that is in chat transcript, case comments, email threads that have gone like 60 emails have been exchanged with the customer, and you're like, just tell me what's the issue, right? And then analysis in terms of sentiment, intent, root cause, things like that, and pulling information from associated text files. I didn't show you that, but we do that also. So if any of that is useful, happy to do a follow-up call. Please just book some time with us. So that's really it. I know we are at time. Are there any other questions that I can answer? Any feedback you may have? I know we started a bit late and we had some uh, teething trouble, so my apologies for that. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Really appreciate your time today, and hopefully we'll get a chance to connect, and hopefully you'll get a. Hopefully this was useful. You'll find new ways to do case deflection and reduce cases, improve CSAT, get promoted. All of that stuff happens for you. Let us know if we can be of any assistance in your journey there. Thank you so much again.